So welcome to the inaugural lecture and celebration of the new DTU Professor in Learning Technologies and Digitalization. The new professor is Helle Rootzen. It's a position that we advertised last December, and we filled it, and Helle has held the position since June 1st this year. My name is Rasmus Larsen, and I'm the head of department for Applied Mathematics and Computer Science. So I'll be the chairman of today's proceedings, and these proceedings will consist of my small introduction here, and then the most important event, the inaugural lecture, after which there will be the opportunity to ask questions to the new professor, and after that I hope all of you will join us outside the auditorium for a drink and a toast. Our department, DTU Compute, we span the science fields of mathematics, statistics, and computer science. But we are also an engineering department, covering, in a broad sense, informatics and communication technologies. And we also play a major role in addressing the societal challenges of the digital society, where ICT plays a part in every industry, every service, in fact, in every human endeavor. There are two main drivers for the activities at our department in these years. One, the almost infinite amounts of data that are becoming available from sensors and applications, and also that physical units are being equipped with computational power that allows them to sense, to think, and to act. And these two things we normally refer to as big data and the Internet of Things, or together as digitalization. This accelerating digitalization will change every business area and every industry, and it will also change the educational industry. We have seen in the last decade many new distance learning platforms coming up. We can see lectures on the internet taught by the best teachers and the best researchers in the world. We have seen that very successful machine learning professors, for instance, the professors Daphne Koller and Andrew Ng from Stanford University, saw this field to be so interesting that they must shift out to it, and they started the Coursera platform that many of you will know. Another Stanford professor, Sebastian Trun, started another platform called Udacity that not only provides courses, but degrees in IT and other topics. So we have at DTU for a long series of years implemented e-learning solutions. So this year, the 2,163 new engineering students that we enrolled after the summer holidays will take introductory mathematics courses where they'll have the opportunity of streaming the lectures at home and also the opportunity to play back the lectures whenever they want to see them again. And they will also be running their exercises in IT systems that allow them to get instant feedback on the solutions to the problems they provide. At our own department, we have also provided e-learning innovations We had a TA, a teaching assistant in a course a few years back, whose job it was to correct computer code. And it went like this. The students would program a piece of code, print it out, and then he would correct it to see if it was programmed properly. And he thought there must be a smarter way to do this. So he wrote a small program to which they could upload their code, and then the computer evaluated. And now this is a company called CodeCharge. We buy their products, and they are also sold to all the other Danish universities. Another student was TA in a course with 30 students. Next time around, there was 130, and he thought, shall I correct 130 assignments every week? There must be a smarter way of doing this. So he implemented a peer grading solution such that an IT system distributed the assignments to other students such that they could correct their colleagues, and the IT system then weighed the evaluations to give, in fact, a much better feedback to every individual student, not to mention the learning experience there is in correcting your fellow students' assignments. This is also a company now that is providing services to all the Danish universities. Many of these e-learning solutions, they provide us with a better use of our resources, but first and foremost, they provide better learning for the students. Digital learning technology is much more than that, much more than remediation of the old teaching formats, much more than just recording the lectures. It's also the intelligent use of the data that we can collect in the learning situations, that we can feed back to the students and to the teachers. It's also IT systems for gamification. It's robots and agents that help learners find the pertinent educational snippets they need at the correct times. And this is the background for this new professorship in learning technology and digitalization. So the process towards this started 2 years ago when the DTU Top Management Program was initiated by our rector, the DTU Executive Board, and I should mention here that the DTU Executive Board is also represented here today. So we have our Dean of Research, Katrine Krohg Andersen, sitting here in the front row. So the DTU Executive Boards and the heads of departments worked on 3 important strategic projects for DTU, one of which was e-learning and continuing education. And from the beginning, the group working on this topic had the idea of learning technology as a research and innovation activity at DTU. Since then, we have had the opportunity at DTU Compute to present our ideas to Ulla Tørnæs, the Minister of Higher Education and Science, as well as to Christina Antorini, the former Minister for Education and present Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee for Research, Innovation and Higher Education. We have noted that before the summer holidays, Ulla Tørnæs announced the intention to reserve a 100 million kroner funds to quality improvement in the higher education system. And she said, I quote, "This money is for e-learning, IT, and those sort of things." This is exactly what we are talking about here today. So therefore, before introducing Helle, it's a great pleasure for me also to be able to announce that we will be forming a new DTU Research and Innovation Center for Digital Learning Technology, and that the Minister will formally open this center at an event on November 18th this year. And we will invite all our colleagues from other DTU departments and indeed our collaborators from outside DTU to work with us within this center. And now the first step of realizing this has been, however, to employ a center leader and new professor in learning technology and digitalization, Helle Rootzen. So Helle will lead this research and innovation activity that we hope will allow Danish companies to conquer market shares in this globally expanded market for educational technology. So Helle has her master's degree in statistics from the University of Copenhagen, 1985, and later a PhD degree from this university in 1989. She comes from a position as docent in statistics, and she is also a member of prominent boards in the Danish, for instance, in the Danish E-Infrastructure Cooperation and DHI, the Danish Hydraulic Institute. So I am very proud to present, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming Helle to the podium to give us a view into the research that she foresees in the coming years.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome to all of you. Also welcome to Sweden and Singularity University in San Francisco and Columbia University, because we're streaming this event, so hopefully they are out there. I'm very happy to get the opportunity to talk about what I really think is most of the most important things in future society, namely learning, and especially learning technology. Future society is so complex and built on technology, new technology all the time. And I believe that we really need to know something. Everybody around the world needs to know something about this technology. The reason for that is that otherwise you will fear the coming society. And I believe that fear is the basis for extreme opinions. So if we want a balanced society in the future, if we want equality and not inequality, not only because of money, but also because of knowledge, we need to learn. We need to learn from primary school or maybe earlier to the nursing home. I also think that we believe that we need to learn because some of us are building this new society. And of course, we need to learn a lot about technology and society to be able to build what we really want. I believe that learning technology, advanced learning technology, will help us learn. I think that learning will be better, more deep, more individualized, and hopefully also more fun. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. The girl up there in the right upper corner is Pepper. I met her in Singularity University, and she was very much talking to all of us, and she liked to give us a hug too. But then suddenly one day she stood in the corner and was very sadly and depressed. And we couldn't get into her, she wouldn't answer us. I hope when I will get my personal learning robot, she will be more happy than Pepper was. But I believe a personal learning robot will be an advice that we will all have in the future. She will walk beside you. She will know everything about what you know. She will know how to prepare for the task tomorrow or for your task in a year. She will help you with learning stuff that will be the most motivating for you and will help you all the way through. So that is one of my visions. Or you can wear a learning Fitbit that instead of counting your steps, will count your learning. So that are visions that we will work to fulfill. These are all based on artificial intelligence. I also believe that virtual reality will be very important for future learning. So maybe I do not need a real Pippa walking beside me. Maybe she could be made in augmented reality, and she is not really there, but I think she will be there. One of the other visions for me is to bring learning out of the houses. What do I mean by that? I mean that for many years we have had learning only in school, and when we went out of school, no learning. We have had learning at university, and when we walk out of university, no learning. I believe that we still should have schools and universities, but that learning should be able to catch everywhere in society. So that is another one of my visions. So what is in fact learning technology? Rasmus said a little bit about it and came with some examples on what learning technology could be. Here are some other examples. And the upper part is my private definition on learning technology, which is that learning technology is a research and innovation field engaged in developing and implementing various digital learning technologies to promote deeper, more flexible, more personalized, and more efficient learning. But it's also important to say that not everything should be digitalized. It should not be digitalized learning technology all the way. We also need normal learning technology, so to speak, learning technology understood in a broad sense, where we have a teacher and some students, where we have people going together, students going together, discussing and doing something together. So that's important technology too, and we need to mix those two in the future. I also think it will be about evidence, because we need to help people choosing between all this new technology. There will be a lot of technology coming up right now. You can already see that. And how to choose between it. So we need to do tests. We need to go out there and experiment and find out how to find the best learning technology. So evidence is a part of that too. Here you can see some societies and journals and conferences about learning technology. Just to tell you, there is a lot of stuff out there. A lot of people have grabbed this opportunity right now and do things in learning technology. And luckily, I'm not alone here either, because at DTU Compute, almost every section do learning technology. You mentioned this about code judge. That's one example. Somebody else look into the brain and see how learning is when you look in the brain. So there's a lot of good examples, both at DTU Compute, at DTU in Denmark, and in the world. This talk will be about learning technology. And there's another debate going on in Denmark right now about should we code in primary school, for instance. That's a very important debate too, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. So it's not what to learn, it's how to learn it. So the next step will be to tell a little bit about my work, and it's not mine all the way. I've had a lot of people to work together with, so thank you very much for the cooperation. And I will share with you 3 of these works that I have done and what I am doing. So behind all this, every time I do something in learning, this is my guiding stars. That's how I think learning should be. And you can see up there that learning should also be fun. I think it's very important to open your brain that you, now and then at least, are doing something which is fun. A good example is when Chile was smaller than she is now. She was playing this Nintendo game, maybe you remember, where you should buy and sell dogs and cats. And she couldn't add and subtract, so she needed to learn herself how to do it. So she found out a system and was able to compute whether it was a good idea to buy a new cat or not. And that's an example where you're doing something fun and a lot of learning is coming down into your brain. Here's some research showing that when you are lecturing, you have an achievement score. You can see up there the blue curve, which is where it is. And you can see it will be better if you think about individual tutoring. So that's when you have a one-to-one relation to your students. In the middle, there's something which is about that you need to know that every student has understand what you said before you can go on to the next step. So that's some of the reasons why I think it's a good idea to think about this, making it individual. And that's what I have done in different ways. And the first project is about nonlinear learning and learning objects. And what is nonlinear learning? It's the easiest way to explain it is to explain what linear learning is. Suppose you're reading a book, you're standing on the first page and you're supposed to read it or really understand what it is. And then you go to the next page, and before you know the stuff from before, you can hopefully understand page 2, and so on. That is linear learning. I don't believe that this is the way you learn, not always at least. I believe that you have to grab a little bit here, a little bit there, something here, and then suddenly you say, oh, now I can go to the next level, and then you do it again. So I believe very much in nonlinear learning. So in this project, we were working together with a company, an international Danish company, who would like to educate their employees in statistics. And they were very different, the employees out there. Some of them has just seen a little bit of statistics, and a lot of them had worked with statistics for many years. And they used to go out there and teach people in every country. But of course, that was not the easiest way to do it, so they would like to do it by distance learning. So they had different learning styles, and they had different prior knowledge. So we decided to make a course which took those two things into account. So we did it by making learning objects. Small, self-contained something which has some learning in it, and where you can jump from one to another. The idea is that you can start wherever you want. I mean, you can start where you really think you know something already, or you can start where you do not think you know anything at all. And all these learning objects was equipped with a test. So before you entered, you could say, okay, is this something for me, or do I already know everything? And then you could go into it, you could play around, videos, text, different things. And then when you left again, you could take another test and see if it was okay that you really could leave, or you need to come back another time. Doing learning in this way is also different from writing a book, because you can teach the same stuff at different levels, so to speak. An intuitive level, a complicated level with a lot of mathematical formulas and so on. So you can jump also around in the other dimensions, so to speak, when you are trying to learn. So that was the idea behind what we did. There are also another good thing about this, which is reusability. Because you're building these blocks so they can in principle stand alone, you can take the blocks and put them into another course another day, so you do not have to invent things over and over again. And you can go out there and find these small modules from other people so that you can combine in the best way. We also used this in the introductory mathematics course, not that advanced as I just told you, but we used it in a project where we took 1 week in the introductory mathematics course. Every student at DTU comes through this course, so there's very many people, very many students, and we tried to play around with 1 week where we built a lot of different things they could use. Videos telling something about what the mathematics should be used for, because some people can only open their brain if they know what they are going to do with this piece of mathematics. Another example was the theorems. You could find all the theorems in the e-notes easily, because another kind of people would like to know exactly which theorem I'm going to prove today before I can open my brain and do what is need to be done. So we did a lot of different stuff, and then we let the students choose. So they tried for this week a lot of different things on top of their ordinary lectures and exercises, and then we chose the things that the students like most. And then we put that out into the whole course. And that has been running for some years now. It's a long time ago, and the motivation of the student was one thing we could see was much more high than it was before. So that was one example of what we have done. Another example is about adaptation, profiling, and evidence. Adaptation is one of the trends right now. Everybody is doing adaptive learning systems. And some of them comes from these 2 companies in the US, Area 9 and Newton, who are doing a lot of these adaptive algorithms, which are bought in Denmark and developed even more to a Danish market. And there's a lot of course, also a lot of other things out there which is adaptive. But in fact, what they are doing, it's a much bigger scale, but they are in fact doing a little bit like what we did many years ago in the introductory mathematics course. Here they have tailored it especially to you, so you will only be provided with what they think will be the next step for you, and that means this means that you will have the exercises which is hopefully at the right level for you, which is a very good thing, because then you will have success either when you are not very good or if you are very good. And I think that will bring you forward in many ways. We are working together with a Danish company who do that kind of stuff, namely Matematikfæsser. Maybe you know them from somewhere. A lot of kids around in Denmark are doing exercises here. They have 75% of the Danish primary schools have bought this system. So, and you can see a lot of exercises since August 1st. A lot of people, you can see the number up there, has done exercises in Matematikfæsser. What we are doing there is that we are working together with them to build evidence, because they would like to know something about how their system works, when it works good, how to do the exercises. Is better to do, as many students does, 100 exercises before the exam, or is it maybe better to do 10 every day or every week? So we are looking at these kind of things. And we are also looking at student profiles. Are we able to characterize students so that we can use that information in the adaptation algorithm? So most of the companies right now are doing adaptation in relation to how difficult an exercise is. But not very many people are doing adaptation related to learning styles or motivation styles. There's a huge debate about whether there is something called learning styles, so maybe we should call it motivation styles instead. I believe in that you are motivated in different ways, and that could be interesting to try to build in, not necessarily in this system, but build in how you learn in other circumstances. Then a little bit about student-driven learning, which is another project that we have right now, which is very much motivated by hackathons. I'm very inspired by hackathons. I think it's a fantastic event because the students themselves are making teams. So maybe they know in the team that they need one from CBS, they need one from University of Copenhagen, and maybe 2 from DTU to form a very good team. And then they work for 3 days and maybe also 3 nights to really solve a new problem, new for them. We had one of these hackathons some time ago at Compute, where we got data from Lyngby-Taarbæk municipality, and where they had to come up with some solution which should be green in some way. And the winning team made it so good that their solution could be the basis for a new small company. And they didn't knew each other beforehand, but they just worked for these 3 days and nights, eating a lot of pizza, and came up with a new idea. And I think it's very inspiring that having students looking at things they don't know anything about in principle and come up with these fresh new ideas is a very good thing. And I think that they learn a lot by doing it. So I would like to take this concept and try to see if we can do it in ordinary courses, or if we could take some of the spirit and put into ordinary courses. And that's why we made this project. Another question is this about future learning, which I also think is very inspiring. What should you learn when Watson and Siri is around? I mean, in a few years, you can just ask them everything, and they will answer you. So what do you need to know? Do you need to be able to pose the right questions? Or maybe they can do that much better than you two. So what do we have to teach the students, and what do they need to know? And I think cooperation between students could maybe also be the key here, because they maybe know more about what to know than we do, or maybe we should do it together. So what have we done? We came up with a definition on what we think are student-driven learning. And it's defined as students are co-designing or co-producing an activity or product which addresses their own or others' learning. This process is characterized by a high degree of initiative or autonomy and responsibility by the students. And then we went out to look for what have other people done in this area. So we made a literature survey to try to see what people have wrote about. And there was almost nothing when we compared to this definition. Almost everything done out there are framed by the teachers. More or less, of course, but they are in there somewhere all around. And what we could see was that these 3 groups here was the most dominating ones: students as producers, where students go out and make a product maybe, or it could be that they make a wiki and write in there something so that they share their knowledge with each other. Another group was innovation, entrepreneurial learning, where they tried to learn something about being innovative. And the third group was Learning 2.0, which is about some of the ideas I just told you about learning in the future. But we do not find that much, and that's It couldn't be that you do not write about it, that's one idea, but it could also be that there's not so much out there. So now we are going to give 2 workshops, one here at DTU, another one an international workshop to try to collect more from out there and have a discussion and make a community around this kind of learning to try to build it up. And we're trying also to experiment with this kind of learning at DTU. So that was my examples on my work. Then I would like to say a little bit about the future and what I think about that. What I've told most about right now is in the main core of learning technology. But there's a lot of things coming up at the border right now which can help you learn, but it's not exactly inside learning technology, so to speak. This is one example, Focus at Will, where you can get music tailored especially for you, which helps you concentrate. And one of the persons who told me about this had a story about herself. She was sitting and really concentrated with these on, and she didn't realize the monkey that was jumping down and sitting on her shoulder. It was not in Denmark, but somewhere else. So she was so concentrated that she just didn't realize anything. So maybe it helps. Maybe it can help your brain to really get in the learning mode. And we would like to look at that too and see if we can see something there when we combine those things. Another, you already said it, Rasmus, about Udacity. Another thing coming up is that you tailor a collection of small courses exactly to what you need it for. This is an example of self-driving car engineer. If you like to be such one, you can see here exactly which small courses you need to combine to get the right skills and the right competences. So that is another trend we're seeing right now, that you maybe do not need the education that we're used to, where it's the same for almost everybody, but you need these tailored education in the future. And then another example is Canopy Lab. And what is interesting here, that they are trying to build a better society, or the students there are trying to build a better society. It's not very advanced e-learning wise, but it collects people together who would like to work for the same thing and go in groups and try to build, as they call it, activism learning. So that's another trend that we are seeing right now, that you need to have a passion for what you are learning, and you need really to use this outside your own learning experience, so to speak. And you would like to go together with other people who try to fulfill the same way of thinking. So here's an illustration. Earlier we saw a class and a teacher. I'm sure that we will still see this also. As I said, it's important too, but maybe not always, maybe not all the time. I think we will also see this one-to-one relation with the teacher, or we will see the students or the pupil gather together and do something by their own. So I think that future learning is about combining many learning technologies. And I think what I write up there is that it should be a good learning technology, both for the topic we are trying to learn, for the student, but also for the teacher, or the coach, or the mentor, or whatever it is. And I think that's very important too. We almost always talk about the students, and that's of course important because it's them who are going to learn something. But I think that everything should be right, so to speak. Also, what is good for teaching a specific topic, that's not the same for every kind of topic. And maybe you're not the teacher who would like to see yourself on YouTube. Maybe you have other things you would like to do with your students. So when you have to choose, you have to be aware of all these three things. So it's personalized or individualized for the students, but also for the teachers or for their roles in learning. So I think that's another important thing. Then I think, as I've said many times, that learning will be more personalized. That's a big, huge trend right now, and teachers will maybe have other roles than they had before. So now it's time to develop this new concept, and I think we should do it together. One place where we will do it will be in the new center. But I think it's very important that we try to find a lot of different people doing this. Right now, learning technology is mostly made by people who know something about technology. But it's also important to take in people who know something about didactics, people who know something about the future society, people who are students, and a lot of other kind of people, because what we are building here is not only knowledge, it's also something which should go away into new society. So I think it's very important to do this together, and I think that's one of the things we will do in this new center. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, time for questions.
Yeah.
So Per, I'll just bring the microphone to you. So since we are streaming the event, okay?
And Per is another good example of learning technology. He does a lot of videos and put them out there and has a huge amount of people watching.
Hi, Helle. Thank you for the very nice talk. It can be phrased very brief, my question, and then I could add some more. When is the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. The future is real right now, but it's also tomorrow, and tomorrow will be very different from today. So the future is here and now. It's not as in the past. I mean, people have also always thought that things are going too fast and things like that. But I really believe that now we are on an exponential curve and we are up here. So it will change really, really fast. And that's why the future is tomorrow and today. Fine. And the day after tomorrow. So we need to work on that. But I also think we have an opportunity now to really think about how we would like these things to be, because it's new for us. I mean, it's right now, a lot of learning technology is coming up. So we need to decide what do we like, which kind of schools, universities, teaching, learning do we like to have. And so it's now we have the window to choose. Maybe the window will go with us, so to speak. But I think it's important that we really are trying to think about that.
Yeah. Anybody else? So we have first in behind here.
So one of the questions in the abstract was, will we need teachers?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Or
yeah, I
tried. Answer?
Yeah, I tried to say that I think we still need teachers, but I think some of them will be other kind of teachers than before. I think some of them will be coaches, mentors, people maybe gathering together with the students, not with the ordinary or the old-fashioned roles, but just taking place in some learning together with the students or the pupils. So I think they will have a lot of different roles. And as I said, it has something to do about who are you. So you need to find your own role, but I think there will be a lot, and we have to experiment with that. I think the old-fashioned picture where the teacher always is the one who knows everything and try to put it down to the rest, I don't think that is a very good picture anymore. So I think that will change. But the roles will be very many different, and we have to see what we can, find.
Yes, I find it interesting that your vision includes building evidence. And I just would like for you to expand on that, particularly because the data on student learning outcomes tends to be scarce. We tend to adopt new technologies because they're exciting, innovating, they increase collaboration, but where is the evidence that they work? That's issue number one. But we define evidence in different ways based on our disciplines. So.
Yeah, and you're right. There is not many evidence out there because a lot of things are coming up right now. We are saying, that would we like to use, and maybe not that one, and it's not built on evidence. But there's a huge amount of data. It's not always very easy to get the data for the researchers. It's not always easy to work with it, but I think we should work for getting these data so that researchers can work with them. And there's a lot, for this Matematikfässer program, they log everything. How long does it take to answer a question? How long do we have in between until the next question, and so on. So you have a lot of data, and you can use that, I guess, for trying to make some kind of evidence. You can do it for a single learning technology, or you can see in general how people behave and which is maybe the best for them as a student or for them as a teacher, and so on. So we need to find out also to use these huge amount of data, combine them maybe with something else. But we also needed to do it in a good way. We can make the parallel to medical research, where they have good guidelines and rules for how to use data, so that you have some privacy in it too, and only do the right things, so to speak. That's always a good question. But anyway, we need to find out how the rules should be, and maybe we can copy something from medical research in that respect.
Okay, so Philip Bille asked about teachers, and I could then ask about the buildings and so on that you also mentioned early on in your presentation. So we are so very proud of this campus, or in fact, all our campuses. This is not because I do not know Latin, it's just that our Dean for Undergraduate Studies has decided that we call them campuses here. And we take good care in building smart new auditoria buildings, and think a lot about how they should, and they look fairly traditional. And is this what is needed in the future?
I think we need every kind of building, and I think it's important also to have a campus where people can gather together. And we're very famous in Denmark for that. It's so easy to go into the professor and ask something, and we should still have that. It's important that people are together, that we can discuss and interact with each other. So it's very important with nice buildings and new auditoriums and so on. But it's also important to learn when you're not there. So we have to combine it, but I think, and we can take in some different kind of e-learning into the buildings, so to speak, but we can also use it outside. So I think it's important for DTU, for instance, to have this campus or these campuses around, and be there and have places where the student know there will be the other students, and of course, if they should do something alone on their own, they could do it just using the internet, but it's also nice for them, and I think that's important too, to be together and do something together in a physical setting, so to speak. So it's important. It's difficult to see what should we build in the future. Right now we are trying to combine the old-fashioned way with rooms which are more easily equipped or changed if we need to use them for something else, and that's a good idea.
Good. I think that we shall just have one last question then from our Dean of Research.
Well, I feel tempted to have another follow-up question. Now we talked about teachers, we talked about buildings. How do you see the potential for digitalized learning for those who are not students anymore, for our generation and those older?
Yeah, I think that's important too. We can't stop learning when we leave the university. So we need to make this a place also where people come back and learn on a regular basis. I mean, that's important, or we need to send some learning out to them. We need to keep this community. So continuing education will be, I think, very important in the future, and that's of course something DTU can do something about. You can also get that learning pieces out everywhere. So we need to really think about what should make people come back here and not come back to MIT or just go out in space. But that goes for our students too. So in the future, we really have to work to be very creative and very, I mean, it's seriously that we should take learning technology really into account to build an environment which is attractive both for students when they are students and for people who were students once and they would like to come back, because we need to fill up all the time. So you're right, and that's an aspect which is, I mean, it's important to have focus on that.
So we are coming to the end of the auditorium session. You have presented us with many new opportunities that lie ahead of us, but I think it's also fair to say that there are great expectations of what we can do. And I'm sure that you and the center under your leadership will be able to meet these expectations, and I certainly look forward to being part of that. So I have a small bouquet for you here, by which I want to, of course, congratulate you, but also congratulate all of us with the new DTU professor. So
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So having buildings and facilities also facilitates one important thing. One important thing that students these years find interesting and important. And I'm going to quote a phrase that was coined by one of our colleagues, Professor Sten Markvossen, namely that the students of today enjoy the pleasure of being together. Yeah. And now I hope you will all join in with us in the pleasure of being together outside, where we can continue the congratulations. So thank you very much.